In Red Hollow, they said love was just another kind of debt, and debts here were paid in blood. The night smelled of smoke and fear. Church bells tolled not for joy, but for judgment. A bride in white lace stood trembling at the altar, her veil hiding more than her tears. And beside her, a groom whose smile carried the weight of every shadow his family cast across this cursed town. But weddings in Red Hollow were never about love. They were bargains. Shackles. Promises written in the ink of fear. I wasn't invited. Hell, I had no reason to be there at all. Just a drifter, a stranger passing through, until I saw her eyes that begged me to choose. Walk away, like every other coward in this town, or draw my gun and damn us both. By sunrise, Red Hollow would drown in secrets, and the blood on the church floor would decide whether this story ended with vows or graves. If you love untamed Wild West love stories filled with betrayal, passion, and deadly secrets, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next tale. They called Red Hollow a town built on promises and buried under lies. From the ridge above, I could see its lanterns flicker like fireflies caught in a jar, fragile against the dark. The desert wind carried whispers of weddings, debts, and the kind of love that didn't end in kisses, but in graves. I wasn't supposed to be there, just passing through, chasing whiskey and maybe a card game. But fate has a way of dragging you where it wants. And that night, fate was dressed in white lace. Her name was Marigold Lane, and she was walking to the altar with a man who didn't deserve her. The church bell tolled, each clang rolling across the hollow like a warning. Townsfolk gathered in their Sunday best, though their eyes carried fear instead of joy. They knew what this wedding meant, because the groom wasn't just any man. He was Silas Crow, son of Elias Crow, the man who owned Red Hollow the way a vulture owns a carcass. His men bled the town dry, one dead at a time, one grave at a time. Tonight wasn't about love. It was about power. I tied my horse by the hitching post, kept to the shadows near the church steps, my hat brim low, my revolver heavy at my side. I had no business there, no reason to care, until I saw her face. Marigold's veil was thin, her eyes clear even through the gauze. Eyes that begged, pleaded, screamed without a sound. Eyes that locked with mine for a single breath before she looked away. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't just keep walking. The preacher droned on, his voice shaking as though he too feared Crow's wrath. Do you, Marigold Lane, take this man? Her lips parted, but no sound came. Before she could speak, the church doors slammed open. A gust of desert wind snuffed the candles, threw shadows wild across the pews. And then came Elias Crow himself, tall, gaunt, with eyes like embers buried in ash. He carried no gun that I could see. He didn't need one. His power was the fear that trailed him like a cloak. Stop the ceremony, he said, his voice dry as bone. There are debts unpaid. The room froze. Even his son, Silas, stiffened, confusion flickering in his eyes. Marigold trembled. Her hands clenched white around the wilted bouquet. What debts? Silas demanded, trying to sound bold. Elias's gaze swept the church. It landed on me. For a heartbeat too long. Then it moved back to Marigold. Her family owes me blood, he said simply. A gasp rippled through the pews. The preacher backed away. Marigold's knees buckled. She whispered something I couldn't hear, but I read it on her lips, please. And that was enough. I stepped from the shadows, boots echoing against the wooden floor. My voice cut through the silence like steel. Then maybe you'll have to take mine instead. Every head turned, every breath held. Elias Crow's ember eyes narrowed, the hint of a smile tugging at his mouth. And who are you to pay another's debt? I tipped my hat back, Let him see the fire in my eyes. A man who doesn't take kindly to vultures circling the living. The silence cracked like thunder. Hands drifted toward holsters. Men shifted in the pews. Marigold's eyes found mine again. This time, they didn't beg. They burned. And I realized something dangerous. Something irreversible. Her fight was mine now. The church erupted like a powder keg. Whispers became shouts, pews scraped the floor, and half the townsfolk bolted for the doors. The rest stayed rooted to their seats, paralyzed by fear. Elias Crow didn't raise his hand, but he didn't have to. His presence alone pressed down like a noose tightening on every throat. Marigold stood frozen at the altar, bouquet trembling, veil shifting with her shallow breaths. Silas, red-faced, squared his shoulders. "Father," he snapped, "this is my wedding." Elias's ember eyes turned to him with slow disdain. A Crow wedding is business, not play, and business must be paid. The silence cut deep. Silas flinched like a boy scolded, not a man about to claim a wife. Elias lifted one bony hand, pointing toward Marigold. Her father borrowed against me, promised repayment. He failed. He died with his debt uncollected. And now the girl must pay. Gasps rippled through the pews. Marigold's veil slipped back. And I saw the truth etched in her eyes. This wedding wasn't her choice. It was her prison. My colt felt heavier at my hip. I shifted forward. "And how exactly do you reckon she pays?" Elias's gaze slid to me. His smile was a shadow, cold and cruel, in blood. Marigold staggered. Silas went pale, his bravado cracking. "No, she's mine. This marriage is nothing." Elias cut him off. "The debt is everything." The preacher clutched his Bible tight, muttered something about God's mercy, then fled through the side door. I stepped closer, boots echoing sharp against the wooden floor. My hand hovered near the colt, but I didn't draw. Not yet. "Funny thing about debts," I said. "Sometimes they die with the man who made them." Elias tilted his head, studying me like a snake studies prey. "And sometimes," he murmured, "a stranger walks into town, thinking he can change the rules." He snapped his fingers. Doors slammed open. Crowmen poured in 6, maybe 8 guns heavy on their belts, eyes mean with purpose. The townsfolk ducked. Mothers clutching children, men shielding wives. Marigold's lips parted in a silent plea. I counted the odds. They weren't good. But odds never stopped me before. "Let her go," I said. Elias chuckled, the sound brittle as dry leaves. "No, Drifter. She is the payment. But perhaps," his eyes glinted, "perhaps she'll amuse me. Take her place. Bleed in her stead. The town will remember the fool who thought himself a hero." My stomach tightened. His words were a trap. Yet Marigold's eyes burned into me, sharp as barbed wire. I saw at her defiance beneath the fear. She wasn't begging anymore. She was daring. I took a step closer. "If it's blood you want, then look me in the eye when you take it." For the first time, Elias's smile widened. He gestured to his men. "Outside," he commanded. "Not here. Not under God's roof." The outlaws closed in, their boots thudding like war drums. Hands grabbed my arms. Cold steel pressed against my ribs. I didn't fight, not yet. Not until I had a chance worth taking. Marigold cried out, lunging toward me. Silas caught her by the wrist, holding her back with a grip more desperate than loving. "Don't," he hissed. "Don't throw yourself away." She jerked against him, eyes never leaving mine. And in her gaze, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. The crowmen dragged me toward the door. The townsfolk parted, some whispering prayers, others staring at me like I was already a dead man. As the door swung wide and the night air hit my face, I realized this wasn't just about one woman or one debt. Red Hollow itself was choking under the crows. And if I walked away or died quietly, nothing would change. The desert wind howled through the hollow, carrying with it the promise of blood. Elias Crow stepped onto the steps of the church, his silhouette stark against the lantern light. He raised a hand, and his voice cut through the night. Tonight, the hollow will be fed. My jaw clenched. My pulse steadied. If this was the game, then I would play it, but not by his rules. They dragged me through the dust like a man already buried. My boots carved trenches in the ground, grit filling my teeth as the crowmen jeered and shoved. The church bells behind us tolled a hollow sound, more funeral than wedding. I twisted against their grip once, twice, but cold steel dug deeper into my ribs. Elias wanted me alive for now. The town square stretched wide before us, lanterns flickering in the night breeze. People spilled from their homes, drawn like moths to the fire. Whispers rippled. Who is he? Why is he standing against the crows? Elias Crow raised a hand, and the crowd fell silent. His voice carried, low and venomous. This stranger thinks he can cheat death. Tonight, Red Hollow will learn there is no cheating crow blood. The men shoved me to my knees in the dirt. A hush fell. Elias stepped forward, coat dragging like shadows, his boots untouched by dust. You wish to take the girl's place, he said. Very well. But blood must answer blood. He snapped his fingers again. From the darkness, two more men emerged, dragging something heavy between them. It hit the ground with a metallic thud. Chains, long and rusted, stained by God knows what. They wrapped them around my wrists, my chest, pinning my arms tight. The cold iron bit deep. The crowd murmured. This wasn't a shooting. It was a spectacle. Elias leaned close, his breath stale with tobacco and something fouler. You'll hang, drifter. Slowly. The town will watch. And the girl. His eyes slid to Marigold, who stood at the edge of the crowd, veil torn, face pale but unbroken. The girl will learn her place. Rage burned hotter than fear. My pulse pounded, but I forced a smirk. You talk too much, Crow. Maybe that's why your men do all your killing. A ripple of laughter, small, nervous, broke from the crowd. Elias's eyes narrowed. His hand twitched. For the first time, a crack in his mask. He turned sharply. String him up! The men hauled me toward the old gallows at the square's center. Its beams groaned under the weight of years, blackened by storms and sins alike. I'd seen gallows before, but never. From this angle, never. As the man climbing the steps, the rope swung like a viper, hungry for my neck. I scanned the crowd, faces pale, eyes wide, some turning away, some leaning closer. But one face burned brighter than the rest. Marigold. She'd slipped free of Silas's grip. She moved with purpose now, edging through the crowd, her hand brushing beneath her dress. A flash of steel. A knife. Small, but sharp. Hope flared. The crowmen forced me up the steps. The rope itched against my skin as they looped it over my head. Elias spread his arms like a preacher before his flock. Behold, he thundered. The price of defiance. The crowd shuddered. Mothers shielded children's eyes. A drunk spat into the dirt, but Marigold's gaze locked with mine. Fierce, unyielding. The hangman's knot tightened. My vision tunneled. the world shrinking to the creak of wood and the smell of hemp. Elias raised his hand. Now. The lever groaned, and then chaos. A lantern shattered. Fire bloomed in the night, orange and hungry. Someone screamed. Horses shrieked from the hitching posts. The square dissolved into panic. The crow men faltered, half turning toward the blaze. Marigold moved. She darted forward, blade flashing, cutting at the rope with desperate speed. Fibers snapped, frayed. My chest heaved. Air rushed back in. One of the crow men caught sight of her. "The girl!" he roared, lunging. I twisted, chains rattling, and slammed my shoulder into him. He stumbled, tumbled down the gallows steps. The crowd surged, half in terror, half in fury. Years of fear boiled over into chaos. Elias's voice cut through the madness, sharp and furious. "Hold them. Kill the girl if you must." The words froze the blood in my veins. He meant it. He'd see Marigold dead before defied. I yanked against the chains, muscles screaming. The rope tore free at last, Marigold's knife biting through. I fell hard to the boards, wrists still bound, lungs dragging in the night air. She knelt beside me, eyes wild. "You can't fight them all." I met her chaza, heat roaring in my chest. "Watch me." We rose together, firelight painting us in gold and shadow. Around us, Red Hollow tore itself apart, panic, fury, blood waiting to spill. And for the first time I realized this wasn't just survival, this was war. The fire spread like it had been waiting for this moment. Flames leapt from wagon to porch, licking dry wood with greedy tongues. Smoke curled upward, swallowing the moon. Red Hollow was burning, and for the first time, it wasn't the crows who lit the match. I stumbled down the gallows steps, chains heavy on my wrists, Marigold clutching my arm. Around us, the crowd split, some fleeing, some surging forward, finally daring to raise fists against their tormentors. Gunfire cracked. A woman screamed. The night turned into a battlefield. Elias Crow stood tall amid the chaos, his voice booming like thunder. "Seize them both! The girl and the drifter! No one defies Crow blood." His men obeyed, pushing through the mob, clubs swinging, pistols flashing. But for every man they struck down, another townsperson rose with a stone, a shovel, even bare hands. Fear had ruled too long. Tonight fear snapped. Marigold pulled me into the alley between the saloon and a storehouse, pressing me against the wall. She hacked at the chains with her knife, sparks flying as steel met steel. "You'll never break it," I gritted, chest heaving. "Not with that blade." Her eyes blazed. "Then what? Let them take you again. Let him hang you slow." Before I could answer, a shadow fell over us. Silas Crow, Elias's brood of a brother, blocked the alley mouth, shotgun glinting in the firelight. His grin was a knife's edge. "You should have stayed dead, stranger," he drawled. "Now I get to kill you twice." The barrel rose. I lunged, shoving Marigold aside. The blast ripped the wall, splinters stinging my face. Pain lanced my shoulder, hot and sharp. But I kept moving. I rammed Silas with my bound arms, chains crashing against his jaw. He staggered, cursing, but his grip held firm. We crashed into the dirt, rolling, smoke choking us both. His fists rained down, thick as stone, my chains the only shield. Marigold screamed my name, then her knife flashed again, slashing across Silas's arm. He bellowed, dropping the shotgun. I seized it, rolling to my knees, pressing the barrel to his chest for a heartbeat. Silence. His breath ragged, blood soaking his sleeve. "You don't have the guts," he spat, teeth red. Maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't the man who pulled the trigger point blank. But tonight wasn't about me. It was about the town. About her. I squeezed. The blast thundered, swallowing his words forever. Silas Crow hit the dirt, still. Smoke curling from his chest. Marigold grabbed my hand, pulling me upright. Her voice shook. They'll come harder now. You killed him. I wiped the blood from my eyes, shoulder screaming. Number. We killed their fear. Now Elias has nothing left to hide behind. Her gaze darted past me back to the square. The fire painted Elias in red light, his coat whipping like wings of some dark angel. His men closed ranks around him, but their faces were pale, their steps unsure. He roared above the din, pointing at me. The drifter murdered my brother. He's no savior, he's death itself. The words should have rallied them. Instead, they wavered. A few even lowered their guns, eyes darting to the burning homes, the panicked children. Elias's power was cracking. And then Marigold whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. There's something you don't know. About him. About Elias. Her eyes glistened, reflecting flame. What? I rasped. Her lips trembled. He isn't just cruel. He isn't just greedy. He killed my father, framed it as sickness, and if he learns the truth I carry. She touched her stomach, barely, like a secret she hadn't dared speak. He'll never let me live. The ground tilted beneath me. The fire roared louder. This wasn't just vengeance anymore. This was blood feud, twisted deeper than I'd guessed. Chains still bound my arms, heavy and unyielding. The town howled around us, torn between terror and freedom. And Elias, eyes burning brighter than the flames, raised his hand for one last order. Kill them all. The order left Elias's lips like poison. And suddenly, Red Hollow was no longer a town, it was a battlefield. Gunshots cracked, men shouted, women screamed, and the fire swallowed street after street. The Crow dynasty had ruled with fear, but now fear had teeth. Marigold gripped my arm, pulling me through the smoke, eyes wild with terror and defiance. If we stay here, we die. Chains clanked against my chest, heavy as sin. My shoulder burned from Silas's blast, each breath ragged, but I forced my legs to move. Every step through that chaos felt like walking through hell itself. The square was a whirl of violence. Townsfolk, once bowed and broken, now fought back with fury born of years in chains. A blacksmith swung his hammer into a Crow thug's skull. A farmhand drove a pitchfork through another's belly. The fire gave them courage, or madness. It hardly mattered now. Elias stood at the gallows, coat aflame with sparks, eyes blazing like the devil's own. He raised his pistol high, firing into the crowd, laughing as bodies fell. I had to stop him, but first the chains. We ducked into the blacksmith's shop, smoke choking the rafters. Marigold slammed the door, her hands trembling. I staggered to the anvil, thrusting my wrists forward. Break them, I rasped. The blacksmith's tools lay scattered, glowing faint from the fire outside. Marigold grabbed the heaviest hammer she could lift. Her eyes searched mine. If I miss, you won't. She swung. Steel rang out, sparks flying. Pain shot up my arms, but the links groaned, cracked. Another swing harder, desperate, and the chain snapped, falling to the ground like dead serpents. For the first time in hours, my arms were free. I grabbed the hammer, hefting its weight. Now we fight. We burst back into the square, smoke thick, fire consuming the gallows itself. Elias turned as if he'd felt me rise from the ashes. His smile was cold, inhuman. You think free hands make you a savior? He sneered. You're nothing but ash waiting to fall. Maybe. I growled, stepping closer. Hammer dripping sparks. But ash can choke a tyrant. He fired. The shot grazed my ribs, white-hot pain searing through me. But I kept moving. I swung. The hammer caught his pistol, sent it spinning into the fire. His eyes widened rage, fear, disbelief, all tangled together. We crashed together, fists in fury, two men locked in a dance of death while the town burned around us. He was strong, but I was desperate. Every punch I threw carried the weight of every man and woman he'd broken. Every drop of blood I spilled was a promise that his reign would end. He drew a knife, slashing wild. I caught his wrist, twisted until bones popped. The blade clattered. I drove my fist into his gut once, twice, until he doubled over. But before I could finish it, Marigold screamed. I turned. A Crow gunman had her by the hair, pistol pressed to her temple. "Drop it, or she dies." Time froze. Firelight flickered. Shadows stretched. My breath thundered in my ears. Elias straightened, blood dripping from his lip, eyes glinting. "Choose, Drifter, her life or yours. Either way, Crow blood wins." I raised the hammer, knuckles white. My mind raced. If I dropped it, he'd kill us both anyway. If I swung, Marigold might fall first. But then Marigold moved. Fast. Fierce. She drove her knee into the gunman's groin, ripping the pistol from his grip. The shot went wide, sparking off the gallows post. I didn't hesitate. I swung the hammer with everything left in me. It connected with Elias's chest. Bone cracked. Breath exploded from him. He flew backward, crashing into the flames. His scream was swallowed by fire. The town fell silent. Every eye turned to the burning gallows, to the shadow writhing in flame. And then still. The crowmen faltered, dropped their weapons, fled into the smoke. Red Hollow stood bloodied, broken, but free. Marigold staggered to me, pistol still smoking in her hand. Her eyes shimmered, not just with tears, but with something fiercer hope. "You did it," she whispered. I shook my head, chest heaving. "We did it. Them too." We turned. The townsfolk stood, weapons trembling, faces black with soot and grief, but shoulders straight. For the first time in years, the crows were broken. But as the fire roared, Marigold leaned close, voice barely audible over the crackling blaze. "You don't understand. Elias was just one. His blood runs deep, farther than this town. They'll come for us. For me. For what I carry." Her hand brushed her stomach again, the secret heavy between us. I stared at her, at the flames consuming Red Hollow, and knew this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something far deadlier. I tightened my grip on the hammer, smoke stinging my eyes. Then we ride at sunrise. Thank you for listening to Western Romance Stories. If you enjoyed this tale of love and danger in the Wild West, give the video a like. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more untamed stories. Until next time, may your odds hold and your heart stay brave.